Incremental routines. Today, I want to share with you what is the difference with Ctrl+J and Ctrl+Shift+R. You may notice that if I do Ctrl+J, I get this dialog to set a new interval of this element. Nice. And if I press Ctrl+Shift+R, what is this? It seems the same thing, right? Well, there is one slight difference that your Ctrl+Shift+R, you are registering the repetition. But it's not as simple as that, because it depends if it's a topic or it's an item, if the item is outstanding or not. And the consequences later in time, it will be different. The effect it will have is slightly different. Okay, so let's tackle one at a time. Now, that's my root element. That is a really bad example. So what I will do is, here I have the outstanding elements of today. My today of the recording of this video, it's April 7th. Nice. Okay, let's try this one. This has a short interval. So it's roughly a month, 32 days, and a priority of 34. And as it's being more or less the same all the life of this item. Nice. So now, 32, and it's outstanding today. That means if I press Ctrl+J, and now I want, let's say, 10 days, what will happen? This will add 10 days of whatever interval there is, or it will set 10 days. So there's one huge observation here. Because in that case, that means that there are 32 days of the interval, but the remaining days of the interval is none, because it has been outstanding today. That means if this was outstanding tomorrow, not today, and should have 32 days interval, but only 31 days have passed, it's not the same thing. So let's start with the easiest example, that it's a case that it does an item that is outstanding just today. So if I press Ctrl+J and I put 10, I'm expecting to get 42 days, 10 more. So it's just an addition of that. And voila, here you go. But what happened is that the priority has had a huge increase. Let's check that. Look at that. It was almost the same. I don't remember if it was 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, something like that. And now it's double the priority. Because you know that the lowest the number, the higher the priority. So from 50 to 25, more or less, it's double the priority, not half the priority. So this will have a consequence indirectly into future repetitions. And it's done on purpose. You really want this huge increase or decrease. Now what happens is that this element is no longer outstanding, because the outstanding date has changed accordingly of the element we have set, the interval we have set. So there are two ways to interpret Ctrl+J. I can put the interval here, whatever I want, 100, or I can choose the date. So let's say I want to be, I think the date of Internet Explorer, I think it's this day, is 69 days. So instead of doing the math, I just use the calendar. And let's try it again. What happens now? I have added 69 days. So I did the math again. But what happened is that, look at the priority. It has decreased now. Interesting nonetheless. Let's try it again with something crazy, like 1,000 days. Okay, now look at the priority. It's the lowest priority possible. Why? Because if I push an item that far, more than 3 years apart, into future, it's because it's very low priority for me. I can almost skip and forget about this item, almost. So actually, this drop in priority, it's more than welcomed. And here you go. 1,000 days. Nice. And if you noticed, the postponed here, the postponed count, it's incrementing. I have 3. Let me do it just again, 2,000. Now I have 4. So you see that the manual Ctrl+J, it is adding the counter of postpone. It's not necessarily an auto-postpone this count. Nice. Now we have done an item. Now let me look, something similar. Okay, a similar item as before. Wow, it's exactly the same interval. exactly the same due date, outstanding date. Perfect. And the priority is almost the same. So good enough, it's almost the same element as before. Nice. So now, instead of Ctrl+J, I will use Ctrl+Shift+R. What happens is that I'm doing the repetition, same as Shift-Alt-L, but Shift-Alt-L is simulating, and that's it. Here I'm not simulating, I'm executing the repetition. Therefore, I can show the backside or the answer time, and I can grade myself. I will grade myself as pass. And look at that now. I just had the same experience as one regular repetition. Why is that? I just have the next interval, almost the same priority. What's the difference? None. Because it's outstanding. It has become outstanding today, and I execute the repetition. So that will be the same effect as if I just did learned, and I go to that element anyways from the queue. What just happened is that I just click there, and I executed the repetition. The only difference. So now I will show you what's different when it's not outstanding. So now I'm looking for items that are memorized, and the next repetition it is in 1 month from now. Oh wow, more than I expected. So now you see that the next rep it's exactly 30 days. Cool. Let's get set read point in article. That is a shortcut for Supermemo. Okay, very low priority, 92%, an interval of 150. Now, it's not outstanding. Let's do first Ctrl+J. By default, I have 30 because it's not outstanding. So therefore, from 133 days, only 123 have passed. So I still have 30 days remaining, and I can actually see that. You have this information in the interval tab of the status data window of the element. It says that they have passed 126 days. So I don't have to do the math myself. And I know that the interval is 153, which I have the same number here in yellow. So I know that there are 30 days that haven't passed. I'm not referring to this. It happens that the last interval was 30 days. You have it here, 30.8. It's just a coincidence. I'm not referring to this number. So what will happen is Ctrl+J. So if I print 10 as before, the first example, I want these to see this element in 10 days. Since it's not outstanding, what I'm doing actually is shortening the interval from May 7th to April 17th in this case. And look at the priority, 92.1, 23, dramatic change. So now look at that, 133 days. So it's now not an interval, it's shorter than before. And the priority has increased dramatically. So first is why the drop, it's not 10. I did in 10 days, right? Because this is 10 days from today, not 10 days from the outstanding date. That is an extremely important detail. I did that on purpose. So let's do it again. It was outstanding on the 7th of May. So by 10 days, you may have, perhaps you will think that is 10 days from this date. So that will be a week and 3 more days this day. Nope. It's 10 days from the day you are executing Ctrl+J, not 10 days before the outstanding date, which could happen to be the same. In this case, it was 30 days remaining. So if I have chosen 15, there will be no difference whatsoever. That's why I have chosen something different, because we won't be able to elucidate this detail. Nice. Good to know. This video will be kind of long, I'm assuming, so just a little recap. When you set an interval, when it's outstanding, this, or outstanding today or in the past, you are adding that quantity of days on the interval. And this may happen that it is no longer outstanding. If the quantity of new days added are more than the quantity of days, it has been outstanding. Then, if it's not the element is not outstanding, I am just cutting, shortening the days. And the reference, it's my today, the today of the collection, not of the outstanding date. There's always a dramatic change in priority. It hasn't increased because I have shortened the interval. If I do the opposite, I will have a huge decrease in priority. Nice. But we just have covered items. So let's do now topics. There will be a difference. Let's check that. So in this case, I will filter just topics instead of items from exactly 1 month from now. So today are not outstanding. And I have the same information in another place, in the calendar. So instead of using the filter, what I could do as well is Ctrl+W, go to here. That's the kind I want. I just double click here, and then I filter just topics if I want. The same effect. As you can see, 40 and 40. Nice. Now, okay, let's do this one. Hollow. I don't even remember having this in my collection. Okay, what happens, it's likely to happen with topics, is that first, you will have less repetitions, most likely, for most of the topics. Because I imported this, then I did next day, I did one repetition, and that's it. And then in almost 1.5 years, I have the second repetition, which will be in 1 month from now. Nice. So usually Ctrl+J will be more used with topics than items, actually. So now, same thing, Ctrl+J, 30 days from now, same experience. Now let's put 15. What will happen? Wow, look at the priority, a dramatic increase. But now let's put this one. Okay, it's slightly shorter, about 400 days. And it will be outstanding in a month. So I'm expecting to have 3, 6, 6. Let's do that. I want to cut 30, so if I put 0, what will happen? Minimum is 1, because 1 is the convention for tomorrow. Now you see that will be outstanding tomorrow. My today, it's April 7th. So first you notice is that the minimum interval is 1. So I cannot reschedule this to today, actually. It will have to be tomorrow. Therefore, if I want to see this now, today, but being registered in the scheduling data, I will have to choose Ctrl+Shift+R, which is its purpose. It's for registering the repetition. So let's do that. Yet another element. It postpones 582, which there are still 30 days remaining. Nice. Let's change the layout so it's easier to see. Look at that. The previous was just 5 days. So a massive postpone has been there. Wow, look at the U factor. Crazy high. So what I will do is, let's say that I read something on incremental reading that pops this in my mind. Oh, you know what? I want to do this now. I look for my collection. On the search, I end up on this item, on this topic. Being a depressed mood increases the tendency to remember negative events. Okay. Now let's say, for the example, that I want to remember if it increases or decreases. I will have not create this item, but let's say that I'm interested on that because I read something about depression, how depression affects memory, and so on. But what will happen is that I read this already and it's not outstanding. Usually you will click this on the knowledge tree, perhaps you do even one closation, one extract, and you move on. But Supermemo doesn't register that as a repetition. So what I will do, before moving on or pressing learn or whatever, I will press Ctrl+Shift+R. And here you go. Now I have the power to decide the next interval anyways. I want this, I don't know. Perhaps for now I will leave it in the same day. And let's see what happens. Oh, so I haven't changed the default calculation of the interval, but what I did is registering the repetition. It's there. Today, April 7th. Nice. So that will be outstanding in long term in the future. Because what will happen? Now I will do one example. Let's see this. Nice. That is not outstanding. Look at that. It will be next year. And I think that is being untouched. Yeah. I only have the automatic repetition because I did one split of this article or one extract, whatever. There is essential 9 properties of a basic memory that we're gonna. Okay, let's say that I want to memorize how many that are 9. So I do this. And let's say that I don't care about the rest. What will happen now is that I have the child extract that will be outstanding tomorrow. Oh, in 5 days. Okay. Usually it will be just a few days or the next day. But what happened is that now I have one topic that has no repetitions but have extracts. How is that even possible? Now we have created a scenario that in Supermemo, in incremental reading, how it's meant to be used, it's impossible. Because how do I have extracts if there's nothing done here? So, and let's say that this appears next time, and I don't care about that. So I will just apply done. So now what happened is that I make an extract of a topic that have no repetitions at all. So this will have some very fine, small details when you want to filter by something. But that's not the point of this video. So in that case, if I want to do it, now I apply done already. Let's pretend it's this one. It's okay, I have seen this on my knowledge tree. I click from the knowledge tree or from search, whatever may be the reason, is I know that it is not outstanding, as this example as well. So I will do this. I extract, and before moving on, Ctrl+Shift+R. And if I don't want to change the next interval, I don't change it. That's up to you. But at least I registered the repetition of today. Nice. Now going back to the items is when should I use Ctrl+J or Ctrl+Shift+R? Let's do that. That's the English collection. Oh, look at that. In this backup, I have no single repetition. How is that possible? Well, that is because I used spread or set remember in the past. So there's no repetition. Now, the difference is I press Ctrl+Shift+R. So what is the difference? Is that I'm executing the repetition today. So I don't want to wait until this becomes outstanding. I do it sooner. So Supermemo will adjust these with other factors because you haven't followed the algorithm, but it's possible. When this could be useful? Let's see that I'm doing my repetitions or reading something. For instance, just last night, I have seen some TV show and they used one word, one expression, it was whim. And I forgot this already. You know that when you have, okay, let's do, that will be more easy example. Let's pretend that the word I meant yesterday in the TV show, it's this one. It's, oh, now I realized that I have forgotten this already. Okay, let's use this example. So it's, oh, in my real life, I have had one repetition. So one occurrence of that. And I realized, oh, you know what? I forgot what it is. So what I know now is that I lapsed this before the outstanding date. Because, in this case, the chance of the probability of remembering this anytime, any day in the next interval will be 99.5%. So it's one of the items, 0.5% chance that I will have forgotten this. And that happened. So therefore, what I could do, if I care, if it's high priority enough, is I will go here, Ctrl+Shift+R, I make the execution, the repetition here, and I will fail lapse. Why this may be useful? In this case, it's not a big deal because it was outstanding in 12 days, something like that. Imagine this, that the interval is in the years already. It's, oh, I have something in real life that I realize I forgot this. And since it's high priority, I want to memorize that. So now that I'm aware of it, let me reset the interval. But instead of resetting the interval of today or whatever, you cannot do this. Or reset the history repetition. You could also do that. I just force the repetition as today sooner than the schedule, and I rate myself as a failure. So I lapse the card. And I will have a second chance to memorize this card. Now, that is not a good example because for me, that's not a high priority item. It's just 60% and about fashion. I don't care much about that. That happened. Now I will be problematic to find one genuine example. But anyways, that could not be true for you. So the example will be the same for you. If it's high priority, look that on your collection and reset it. This is one example of Ctrl+Shift+R that you can use. And remember that topics doesn't have ratings. Therefore, instead of having the question time and answer time, you will have the window anyways, with the only difference that you are registering that repetition. Now, another question. Now that we have elucidated more or less what is the difference with priorities, the next interval, if it's outstanding or not, is when this will be useful or not. But this video will be so long already, so we'll cover that any other time. Hope this has been useful for you. If you get value from this video, consider donating, getting a patron, so you will get something, one call from me or something in exchange, or just tutoring sessions. Nothing more to add today, and see you next time.